My friends, I welcome you to episode number 351 of the Anxiety Guy podcast. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a valuable part of this growing community. This community would be nothing without you. And warriors, if you want to learn more about any of the number one anxiety recovery programs available online today, head over to theanxietyguy.com and learn more about any of my specific and targeted programs for your anxiety disorder. And friends, in this podcast episode, I want to touch on an idea that if someone had shared this idea with me during my state of chronic anxiety, I would quickly bypass the idea. Because at the level of experiencing chronic anxiety, there is so much suffering. There is so much internal anguish. There is so much running from, distracting from. And anxiety really does take a hold of your life and has the potential to affect every aspect of your life. So, don't think that I'm taking anxiety lightly. I've been there. I've been in the darkest places related to anxiety, trust me. But at the same time, as you go about this healing journey, and you go from one step to the next on the healing ladder, as you learn a lesson, as you apply the lesson and look forward to the next challenges, you start to realize that anxiety is in fact your best teacher. Because if you think about it, when we think about the people in our lives, past and present, that have taught us things, they've basically taught us things more so within a particular platform, a certain subject. Anxiety, on the other hand, teaches you about life and how to live your life. As well, it is your best teacher, and the truth is you will never learn the lessons that anxiety is teaching you anywhere else, from nobody else. This mindset, once applied, starts to change everything. You go from being a victim to finally looking at anxiety from a bystander's perspective, from the outside looking in. And when this happens, you tend to grow curious over what sort of things cause anxiety and why it lingers. And when you look at anxiety as a teacher, you start to move into a place called pattern recognition. And as you notice more and more patterns, internal, external patterns that you partake in each and every day, you will notice certain formulas that you use unconsciously that bring up chronic anxiety. And it's within those steps, it's within those formulas that we've been unconscious around that hold the key to our healing. Once we become mindful of those, we can start to move forward. So pattern recognition is very, very important. Most people just look for a quick fix. They don't take the time to reflect and say, when I wake up in the morning, what's the very first thing that I do before anything else? Well, I touch my body. For a health anxiety sufferer, this is very, very common. Okay, is the symptom still there? There it is. What happens the second step? The second step is I start thinking about how this is going to affect me throughout the entire day. What happens in the third step? You start walking very, very gingerly to the washroom. You can see how the anxiety is starting to manifest. But also, when you start to run these steps unconsciously, you really start to feel like you become anxiety, right? It's just who I am. Oh, there's that familiar feeling again, that familiar feeling of suffering, pain, and anguish. No. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's safe. Just because something has been familiar doesn't mean it will be a part of your life forever. And just because something is unfamiliar doesn't mean you can't handle it. This is very, very important to understand. But there are 4 points I want to make here in regards to anxiety being your best teacher, so let's dive deep into these. Number 1 is anxiety represents your core beliefs. Ooh. Now, when we think about beliefs, We think that we only have one set of beliefs, but we don't. We have two sets of beliefs, one coming from the inner child and one coming from your conscious mind. When you think about anxiety, we're talking about your core beliefs connected to that inner child. They're usually represented as initial feelings towards something, like let's say you're about to go to a get-together, right? You're invited to a get-together. The initial feeling is, oh God, I can't do that. I've been spending so much time by myself. I'm not ready to handle that yet. So that's a core belief because it showed up as an initial feeling. That's connected to the inner child's perspective, not yours. Not yours. Your perspective says, hey, it's just a group of people and we're going to have a good time. But you notice who runs the ship, right? Who's the captain of the ship? It's the feelings that run the ship, not the logic and not the facts, okay? So this is why when anxiety is represented as our core beliefs, we must go, oh, I see what I really believe. I see what's really running the ship. I see who the captain is here. And so healing is represented by your core beliefs and your conscious beliefs being aligned, meaning the way you initially feel about something, number one, and how you consciously think about something. When these two things are in alignment, you have congruence. When you have congruence, you're no longer utilizing willpower to fight through certain situations. Things become easy now, right? You see them as they are, not worse than what they are, because the inner child always wants to see things worse than what they are so that you will be prepared. Number two is anxiety shares what is still unresolved in terms of past experiences and ruptured relationships. So anxiety is a representation of things, okay? Anxiety isn't something that just appeared out of the blue. No. Anxiety is saying, hey, you still have these unresolved past experiences, and you still have these ruptured relationships from the past, and here we are, basically just presenting to you, in the form of anxiety, what is still unresolved. Now imagine seeing anxiety from this perspective, rather than something that haunts you on a daily basis. How will your life be different? Well, here's how my life was different. I started to become a body scientist. A body scientist, right? Because health anxiety was something that I grappled with on a daily basis. And of course, health anxiety connecting to generalized and panic disorder and OCD and agoraphobia and all these other things, these labels that get attached to our foreheads that we walk around with on a daily basis. So I started to become a body scientist. I started to go, oh, that's what my body's saying. Meaning, that's what my core belief is. Meaning, this is what the inner child believes about this situation. I started to become a scientist, a body scientist, and a detective. And interestingly, when I started to become more curious over the pains and anguishes that I was going through and the distress, I started to look at them differently. And when I started to look at my pain differently, I started to create space between the pain and a reaction. Isn't this that golden area? Right? So I've got this thing, this symptom or this situation that normally caused me anxiety, and when I'm aware of it, now I've got some space in terms of how I can react to it, and then I make the decision of how I should react, and I react accordingly. Rather than stimuli, reaction, stimuli, reaction, stimuli, reaction, which is how most people deal with things. Okay? Number 3, anxiety shares the feelings from your own inner child, which we've went over, while simultaneously asks the question of, do we continue to believe that this situation represents threat in some form? So yes, this is a representation of things that are unresolved and core beliefs, yes. but the inner child is also asking you a valuable question. Will we continue to believe the same thing we've always believed about this situation? Because when you wake up in the morning with anxiety symptoms, those symptoms aren't there to try to make your life worse. Those symptoms are there to prevent you from going to work. Because once when you went to work, you made a fool of yourself, or there was too much pressure on you, you had a panic attack. So the symptoms are these protective responses that are looking out for your best interest. And trust me, if you've ever had a helicopter parent, okay, that's always hovering around you, times that by 100, and you've got your own inner child. Okay? So now, we can understand that we can respond to the inner child and say, we don't have to continue believing in the same way this particular situation. We don't have to see it the same way. And therefore, you make a change in that very moment, either a thought-related change or a behavioral change, or you close your eyes and imagine something different, but you do something different. You verbalize the change, right? This is where the responding work comes into play, and I go deep into this in my second book, F Coping, Start Healing. So the responding work is very, very important, and the more persistently you do the responding work, the quicker the inner child will start to change its perceptions over any situation. And that's how symptoms go away. Fourth and final point is anxiety is a stepping stone to your higher self. Now again, if somebody told me this while I was suffering, I'd go, yeah, I've heard all that inspirational, spiritual mumbo-jumbo, right? But this is truth, because anxiety is molding you, chipping away, right? Chipping away. And each and every day, you're facing certain challenges, and until you step up to those challenges and consistently, keyword, consistently reframe and respond to those challenges, they won't go away. They won't. And trust me, when those challenges go away, you're going to be faced with a new challenge, and then a new challenge, and then a new challenge. But what happens when you step up to all those challenges? You start to become your higher self. Okay? This has nothing to do with spirituality or religious practices. I'm talking about someone, okay? Someone where they don't grasp on to a certain set of beliefs and reputation about themselves. Okay? I'm talking about someone who looks in the mirror and genuinely and naturally says, you're enough. You're enough. You don't have to make more money. You don't have to look prettier. You don't have to look more handsome. You don't have to buy new clothes. You don't have to move anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to be a better father or be a better mother, because you're good enough. So you can stop stressing about all those things. Okay? That's your higher self who's being content and says, I'm so proud of myself. I've accomplished things, and no longer do I have to be stuck in doership. Right? I can start moving towards a life of non-doership, which means doing things in a completely different manner. Not forcing, not fighting, not grappling with, not hoping for the best, right? We're talking about non-doership here. Your life has flow to it, right? There's a sense of flow to your life. Now you're living through your higher self. But the truth is, you can't live through your higher self in particular situations and go, hey, I did a good job. Now I can go eat junk food again. No. No. Your higher self shows up from the moment you wake up in the morning till the moment you go to sleep and while you're sleeping. That's the practice. Okay? So anxiety is your best teacher, and I highly recommend that you start adopting this idea, because when you do, you're going to find more clarity along this healing journey. I promise you it's worth it, my friends. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Are you enjoying this podcast? If you are, please give it a positive rate and review. It would mean so much to me. And if you want to learn more about any of my programs, head over to theanxietyguy.com today. And remember that you are more than anxiety. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
The most powerful anxiety guidebooks on true anxiety recovery are now available on Amazon. Pick up Beyond Anxiety and F Coping, Start Healing, and supercharge your healing journey today. Also visit www.theanxietyguy.com to connect with Dennis and find the right online program for you. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next podcast episode.